Hey travelers, welcome to Life Between Flights, the podcast about the travel industry, small business, and all of the interruptions that happen in between. I am your host, Cecily North Rudo, certified travel advisor and owner of Traveling North Travel Agency. Today we are going to be talking about processes and how to make things more efficient in your business, tools, and all of the things to look at when starting your business, and how to just make it easier so that you're getting things faster to clients, and how to deal with changes and all of that stuff. So I will be completely honest and say my processes have been pretty chaotic in my business. It is one of those things that I know that I need to get better at. And so partially by doing this episode, I was hoping that it would help me kind of help flesh out some of my processes and the things that, I know that I need to work on. But as starting out as a new agent, everybody just says, do what works for you. But there's some things that are already in place that make it easier for you. So, the first thing is going to be your CRM and your commission software. So whatever that is that, if you're with a host, my host uses AgentMate, and we used to use a system called Smart Agency years ago, but we changed to AgentMate 4 years ago now. And there are so many others out there, but we use that for our commissions and all of that stuff. And then I also use it mainly as my CMS because it also connects with, we are part of Travel Leaders, so it connects to Travel Leaders and the engagement part of Travel Leaders, which makes marketing so much easier. So that would be the first thing, is setting up your customer service platform, whatever that's going to be, where it's going to be tracking all of your clients. I also have a system for email marketing that I don't currently use. I've used a couple different things like Constant Contact in the past, but wherever you're going to be storing all of your client information. I also use Travify, which I'm going to be doing a whole podcast on just Travify, but that's the one that I've really started using for all of my client information. And then obviously I have to put client information, addresses and all of that stuff into AgentMate as well, which then helps with the engagement piece, with that marketing piece. So there's a couple different components to my process. So for me, the very first thing, if I get an email from someone, I also have a Calendly link on my website. So if people are looking to plan a trip, most of the time I'm getting an email because I've already talked to them at some point. Occasionally I'll get a text message, especially if it's a prior client. I will get a text message saying, hey, we're looking to do this, because I already have all of their information in my system. So I make it super easy for return travelers to just book a new trip. So the very first thing is that they're going to submit that request. And sometimes it can come through Calendly, where it's a calendar request, which is, that's another piece. So you kind of have to think about how you want people to be reaching out to you. Being able to set up an appointment with me that way has been super helpful, and it integrates to my calendar so I can see every time that I'm getting a new request in. And then from there, I will send an email when I get that Calendly request saying, thank you so much for scheduling a time. I'm looking forward to it. Just confirming that I have received your appointment request. And then half the time it's someone I've already talked to. So I'll just be like, hey, I know we're going to talk about X. We're going to talk. My one coming up is, hey, I know we're going to talk about a trip to Hawaii. Really looking forward to it. And so that way they are now in my email system, and they are in my client system, so that they can start now getting the marketing from engagement, and then I can, keep track of any requests that they come in or any bookings, and all of their information is already in there. And then from there, we have the that initial meeting, and we'll talk about, what their needs are, what they're looking for. Some agents have like a form that you can fill out with them together, or you can send it to them and be like, hey, fill out this form for me so I know what you're looking for, and it'll have preferences and, what are you looking to do on this trip? How have your vacations been in the past? Where have you stayed before? What's your, ideal hotel type? Do you like 5-star? Do you like 3-star? What do you want to do? What do you not want to do? You ask about allergies. You can ask about seat preference. You can ask about all of the things. But you can do that together, or you can have them just fill out the form. And then from there, for me, once I've had that initial conversation, I will tell them that I charge a fee. So then I will send them, if they don't ghost me, then Most of the time they don't. Then I send them the form to charge the fee. We use Stripe for that. So then I go and charge the fee. I put that information into Agent Meet. So then I have all of their information in Agent Meet so they can start getting engagement. And then from there, I will start with their proposals. So I open up Travefy, I create a new trip for them, and then I will start putting in all of those pieces. Now, the question is, let's go back a few steps. Let's say that I've now had a conversation with someone and either they are like, I've sent them the link to my fee and they don't pay. I've never had that happen. But, there is a follow-up that you could set up in your email marketing or through Travefy even, that will remind them and be like, hey, I just wanted to check in, see if you were still interested in the trip. Here's my information on my fees. If you have any questions, please let me know. And you can set that up, maybe it emails them twice. After 2 times, if they're not responding, then I just let it go, regardless of, whether it's a fee or it's a proposal or whatever. Also, let's say you've met someone at a networking event and they say something about, like, hey, I would love to talk to you about a trip for whatever. I will generally, if I'm getting a business card, I will ask them if it's okay to add them to my mailing list, because some people, I hate it. The one thing I hate is that if I'm at a networking event or if someone comes to one of our networking meetings and then I'm immediately on their mailing list and they've never asked, that drives me nuts, especially when I've never seen them again. Like, they're literally just trying to get email addresses. That's all they care about. So I don't do that. I always ask if it's okay to add them to my mailing list. Most of the time they're like, yep, that's totally fine. Would love that. And especially when I tell them, like, it's not spammy. It's not like, it's maybe once a month, maybe twice a month for some things, but I just let them know that, like, you're not going to be overwhelmed with emails. And then from there, once I start on the proposal, so I've now opened up a new trip in Travefy. At the very, very top, I always include information about travel protection, and that I will be quoting them 2 options for travel protection, third party that's outside of whatever the company is that I may be quoting from, and that, that is the most important thing. When they decide if they want travel protection or not, which is another thing on my traveler form of, then that way you're getting proof of, yes, I do want travel protection, or no, I don't want travel protection. Absolutely get that in writing that they do not want travel protection. That is a very important thing, because if anything happens and they've said no, but you have no documentation of that, that can come back to hurt you. So that's the very first thing. I also include links to my Viator link and my Project Expedition link for, activities and excursions and things like that, so that they know those links are at the top. So even when they're traveling and let's say they haven't booked anything and suddenly they're traveling wherever they are, they can go to those links and find an activity to do, and they can book it right there, because the booking link is already in Travefy and it goes to my Viator. And that one's just a no-brainer for me to just put those links in there. And then from there, I'll put in, if it's a cruise, you just import the cruise. I always put the ship information at the bottom of my itineraries, just because it's a lot of information, and so I want people to see the itinerary, and then once they get through that, then they can go to the bottom and see the deck plans and all of the information about the ship. And then I'll start building the itinerary, so that'll include the hotels, it'll include flights, it'll include whatever components they need. I have clients that do comped cruises, so like they'll do the casino, the free offers from the casino on the ship. And so I was just working on one the other day, so I found their cruise, I put it into Travefy, I added in information about port transfers, I added in information about travel protection and about scooter rental, because they have mobility issues. So since they've traveled, with me before, then I know all of the things that they're going to need. And since the cruise part is already taken care of, then I can include the excursion part of it. And then they can book from there, or if they have questions, I'm happy to book it for them as well. So if they are looking for hotels, I will usually give them 3 or 4 hotels at different price points and give them options. I saw a post on social media the other day about an agent who says the difference between me and a part-time agent is that I tell you the exact hotel to go to. And I get that for like all-inclusives, or if they're really budget conscious and they're looking for like a cheap deal. Obviously some are going to be better than others, but for me, I like to give my clients options, because their style of travel may be different than mine. Their budget might be very different than mine. So I want them to kind of see what the options are. And so I do that for, all of the components of where they would need a hotel. I'll include rental car if they require it, flights if they require it, all of those different things. I also, if they're traveling with children, will include a link to BabyQuip for equipment rental. And then also, like, if they're going to need parking at the airport, airport, or if they want to transfer to the airport or whatever, I will include all of that in there as well. If they need transfers from the train station to their hotel, I'll include that. Once they've settled on, and I will tell them up front, I'm like, I will look at general train schedules if they're traveling by train, but I won't go into too specifics about pricing if it's too far out. Once I will tell them, I'm happy to help book the train tickets, but we might not have a specific schedule or specific price until we get closer. But all of those components go in there. Once the proposal is done, I send it to them and I give them a couple of days to look it over. Generally, if it's more than a week and I haven't heard back, I will email them and just send a little reminder to say, hey, just wanted to make sure if I know, because you can go into Travefy and see if people have looked at it. If they've looked at it and I haven't heard from them in a week, then I will send them a little reminder and be like, hey, just want to check in, make sure that you were able to review the itinerary. Please let me know if you have any questions. Pricing is dynamic, so pricing can change, and I just want to make sure that you know that we can make decisions based on proper pricing. If they haven't looked at it in, say, a day or two, then I just send an email and just say, hey, and I will send the actual link instead of it being sent from Travefy, because sometimes it will go into spam. And so going from there, then they'll let me know their thoughts. In Travefy, you can make decisions, so they can say, like, yes, I want this cruise or this hotel, and they can go ahead and select that. Usually they'll just email me and be like, we want option 1 in this place, we want option 3 in this place. And I try to make it as simple as possible for having multiple decisions in a trip. And then from there, I will also send them, when I send them the proposal, I also send them my traveler form, which is, the passport uploading or the driver's license uploading, and then all of their traveler information, their rewards numbers, their TSA pre-check, whatever, getting all of that information. So when they are ready to book and they say, okay, this is what we want, I can go ahead and book it right then and there. And then sometimes, like right now, I'm working on a trip where the clients, we had booked all of their hotels and then they've decided to change their dates, just pushing everything back a little bit, which isn't a huge deal. However, we've had hotels booked for a while, and now those hotels, the prices have gone up, the room availability has gone down. So I'm going to have to go back and reprice the different hotels because some of their hotels are just not available for these new dates. But all of their hotels are fully refundable, so I'm not worried about any of that stuff. It's just a little bit of legwork on my part. But that's what I'm here for. And so, I'll have clients come back. I just had clients that are looking to go to Europe next summer, and I'd send them a proposal and they wanted to talk about it. And both of them, like, we set up a Zoom call and we chatted through it, and, was able to answer a lot of questions just about how I work and how I can support them when they're traveling. But then also being like, okay, so they also wanted to kind of change their itinerary and change where they're flying into and out of. And so now I've been able to go back and refine more and send them options that are more of a prepackaged land tour, more so than independent, like hearing that they didn't really feel comfortable traveling independent. So giving them some other options that makes them feel more safe and more secure in their travel plans, which I'm also happy to do that. So then from there, once they've made their decisions and we've started booking, I will update all of their confirmations into Travefy, including their confirmation documents. So anything that they need goes into Travefy. You can also take things out of the marketplace, like there's information about like making sure that your passport is valid, which obviously I would do that before the booking, but that can be part of the proposal too, of making sure that, hey, these are the requirements for traveling. And then any sort of like general information about traveling in Europe or wherever they're going. And then I will also, once we have the trip package together, I'll quote the travel insurance. I'll send that to them. I'll send them an email saying, hey, you're going to get you're going to get 2 quotes for these travel protection if it isn't part of their package already. And then they can decide from there. I put all of that stuff into AgentMate, so it's tracking my commissions, it's tracking all of their bookings. And then I set up in Travefy some automatic messages to help keep them excited about their trip, letting them know that I'm here to answer questions if they have anything, if they have to make any changes. I will also put that into their like hotel confirmations, did that documentation to say if you have any cancellation or change requests that they need to be directed to me. Anytime you want them really, unless it's travel protection, you want them talking to you as much as possible. And then from there, depending on the trip and depending on the client, for some of my clients that might have, a much bigger budget, I might send them a bigger gift. But generally my clients, the first time they travel with me, I will send them a little something just to help them kind of get excited about their trip. Sometimes, depending on the trip, I might have something different to send to them the second time around, but that isn't always the case. Not everyone always, they don't get a gift every single time they travel. It just depends on the trip and the budget and all of that stuff. If I'm spending all of my commission on a gift, then that's not really worth it. And then from there, they'll travel. They get all of my information. I'm also on WhatsApp, so they can contact me at any time. I give them all of their phone numbers. If they have travel protection, I will include all of their documentation, and I will update the phone numbers, the contact phone numbers, so that if anything happens, they have their claim number, they have their documentation, and they have the phone number that they need to call if anything happens, so that they are talking to them directly, because that's what they're there for. And they're not having to go through me. They can contact them immediately. And then once they're done traveling, when they come home, I always send out a welcome home email that asks for feedback about the trip. And then it also includes a link. I used to do a link to my agent profiler with travel leaders, but I haven't. I've kind of hit my needed limit for reviews on travel leaders. And so I've actually been sending them to my Google reviews. And so those ones have definitely, and it's also fun to see any reviews coming through. I'm always thankful for them. And then anytime that someone writes a review for me, I will send them a little thank you gift through Sugar Wish, which I will link to Sugar Wish below as well. It's a great little service, something fun that they just get in their email that just says, thank you so much for your review. I am so happy to hear that you had a wonderful time. Things like that. Please think of me in the future. Always happy for referrals as well. Like, just kind of say that stuff, and then they get to pick out a little gift that gets sent to them. And that one's just a nice little reminder. And it's also fun because they'll see that, and then they'll respond to that more than they'll sometimes to other stuff, which is pretty funny. But some of the other processes to think about is that, let's say that you are out networking. Let's say you're going to like a networking happy hour, and let's say you're collecting these email addresses. And so, you want to be asking if you can add them to your mailing list, but you also want to make sure that, you can put them into, if you're using something like Constant Contact or HubSpot or something like that, that you can put them all in there. You can segment them, especially if you've talked to them about maybe a dream trip or something that they would like to do, or maybe a vacation that they just had and they had a great time. For people that really love to cruise, that they're going to be going on another cruise. You can reach out to them with deals or sales and say, hey, I just got this in my email. I was thinking about you. You can mark all of that stuff in there. And then the nice thing about Constant Contact and all of that is that they can unsubscribe if they're just not interested. But at least that's a way to get your face in their mailbox, in their email, or in their physical mailbox sometimes, and having a process for all of that marketing stuff as well. And then also for me, like with AgentMate, because the commissions have to match, so I have a whole process that I go through on an almost daily basis, at least once a week, where I will go through and run all of my reports in AgentMate, so I know what my sales are at, I know what commissions have come in, I know which commissions aren't matching to the reservation, because sometimes suppliers will pay more, they'll pay less than what they say that they're going to, or if maybe you had something canceled and you didn't think you were going to get a commission, and sometimes commissions come in. So there's just things like that. So I will run those reports pretty often throughout the week just to make sure that I'm on top of all of my bookkeeping. But that's something that I am kind of obsessed with, so that I can see what my budget is going to be and see, make sure that I'm getting paid on time, because, if you have to chase down commissions with suppliers, it's better to start doing that process early than waiting like 6 months and you still haven't gotten paid, because there are suppliers that will just take a really long time to pay you. And then another really important process is your bookkeeping. So keeping track of all of your expenses, keeping track of your income, all of those things you should definitely be checking at least once a month, if not more frequently. I have a lot of like automatic payments that come out every month, and so I need to make sure that my commissions and my income are going to cover that. So whether you're running it through QuickBooks or you're running it through whatever, software system that you're using, and comparing your statements to, to all of your purchases and everything, and making sure it also makes it easier at the end of the year when you're trying to get all of your books ready for taxes for the next year, making sure that you're coding everything to where they should be. And as we've talked about, Laura from Woodhome Bookkeeping, she talks about, the importance of keeping track of all of your, your receipts and your finances, because it does make all of the process a lot smoother. So another thing to think about in all of your processes is keeping track of your website or your social media, like creating posts, creating blog posts, whether you're going to be writing or creating marketing for yourself and your business. For me, I use Social Share Pro through Travel Leaders, which is awesome. So it's kind of most of my social media is done through them. But anytime that I complete a certification and I get like a diploma or something, I will share that to my website, and I will share it in my VIP group on Facebook. Anytime that I have a new booking link or a co-branded website with a supplier, I will also share that on my VIP Facebook group. And then sometimes I will also include that into an email to clients to let them know that, like, hey, I just got certified with sandals or whatever. It also keeps them aware of all the things that you're doing and all of the knowledge that you do have, and that you're keeping on top of everything that's going on in the industry. And then with social media, another thing is to think about, if you're out on a fam trip and are you actively posting pictures while you're out there? Are you going to come home and edit them and then post them? I'm notoriously bad at coming home and posting pictures from my trips. I kind of, I take a ton of pictures and then I never look at them again. And that's a process that I need to work on. And, I've talked to other agents from other agencies that are independent, and they're like, if you're not going to post it in the moment, it's just not, like, you can always go back and do like Throwback Thursday or Throwback Tuesday or whatever, and be like, oh, this was such a great time that I had on Royal Caribbean, I'd love to go back, whatever. And there's that kind of thing. But when you're actively out traveling and you're seeing resorts or you're seeing ships or you're experiencing something, sharing that with clients, I think, has a bigger impact in the moment. Or maybe sharing right when you come back, or scheduling posts for later when you come back. That's also, an option. There's just so many things you can do with it. And just having a process for that and knowing, like, hey, I'm going to spend an hour once a week to work on my social media and create some posts for the future thing. One thing that I do is when I have booked something for a client, so whether it's a hotel or a cruise, or maybe it's a car rental or an excursion, I will create a post in Canva. That's a just booked post, and then I'll include some pictures of the excursion or the hotel or whatever. And then I will schedule that in Facebook in the suite, so in my business suite, so that it will post to Instagram and Facebook at a future date. And so for now, I have enough content that I can continue to post stuff twice a week. And so it's just another thing that, again, keeps you active in front of people. And it's on my main Facebook page and my Instagram page, so people can see all the different things that I'm booking. Because a lot of people will assume, especially in the early days, they're like, oh, she just does Disney. And I'm like, no, Disney isn't all that I do. I do a lot of other things. And so showing them the variety of the things that I do, because I've booked all over the world now, that it's kind of fun to share all of that stuff, and people can go back and see all of the different things that I've booked. And that also helps at the end of the year. I keep track throughout the year of all of the locations I've booked for the year, and then at the end of the year I'll do a big reel on Instagram that's a video of all of the places that my clients have traveled to that year. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about these different processes, and of course everybody does it differently, and there's so many things that you can add on to your proposals and your itineraries, like packing lists and weather forecasts. And with Disney you can do dining reservations, and you can talk about all of the perks of being on site, and you can talk about if they're going to do the Halloween party or the Christmas party or whatever. There's or maybe they're going for food and wine at Epcot, or maybe they're going to go do some diving, and you can share some information about where they're going to be diving at, or where to rent equipment or whatever. There's just so many different things that you can share within an itinerary to help keep things interesting and exciting for your clients before they travel. So with that, I hope that's given some good inspiration and helped you get some thoughts down about what your process is going to be, how you're going to respond to potential clients, and how you can work through everything from the time you start a proposal all the way till the time that your clients travel, and then coming back and following up with your finances and all of that stuff. So with that, safe travels, and may your luggage follow you wherever you go. Today's episode of Life Between Flights was sponsored by me, Traveling North, produced by me and edited by Nomad Creations. Please check out the show notes for referral links, discount codes, and more resources that I've talked about in this episode. You can also follow along on our social media on Facebook and Instagram at Life Between Flights Pod. If you want help planning your next adventure, you can always check me out at travelingnorthagency.com. If you have any questions, ideas, or would like to sponsor this podcast, you can email us at lifebetweenflightspod@gmail.com.